Hey, welcome to today's council meeting. This is probably the biggest public gathering we've ever had, so let's just hope we've all got smiles on our faces by the end of the day. Look, really welcome to you here this morning. Before we do start the meeting, can we please be upstanding and have a minute's silence in remembrance of Karen Haddad and Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. Yeah. Start the reading of the karakia. Kia ora te marino, kia whakaponga whanau te moana. Pai huarahi mā tātou I te rangi nei, araha atu araha mai, tātou I a tātou katoa, hui e tahi kia. We start also with a few words of wisdom, particularly wise. I'll leave it up to yourselves to decide afterwards, but there's 3 lines we'll go with. And this is as a consequence of the electoral races on at the moment, so just a few quotes around leadership. The best executive is the one who has sense enough to pick good men to do what he wants done, and self-restraint enough to keep him from meddling with them while they do it. The art of leadership is saying no, not saying yes. It is very easy to say yes. And finally, it is better to lead from behind than to put others in front, especially when you celebrate victory, when nice things occur. You take the front line when there is danger, then people will appreciate your leadership. Right. I don't believe that today's meeting is any later agenda items. And before we get into today's meeting, I'm just going to acknowledge 2 of our councillors who are stepping down at the end of this training, as this is our last council meeting of this training. Firstly, I'd just like to acknowledge Councillor Robin Kloss that came on council 9 years ago, representing her district, her ward, and there could be, I don't think there's ever been a stronger advocate for the people within her ward during those 9 years. Robin's unrelenting in the pursuit to get the best outcomes possible for the people in the Ōtorohanga ward where she represents, and she's also been incredibly supportive of council. Always been here. I must admit, when I came on board as near 9 years ago, I was a wee bit intimidated by the presence of Robin in the room. And look, I mean, she keeps that pressure on all the time. So it's been wonderful working with you, Robin, over the last 9 years. And look forward to your retirement and stepping down now that you live in Te Awamutu. And hopefully things go very, very well for you in the future. So on behalf of council, I'd like to present you with a spray cane. Small top. Certainly, one over not least is the contribution that Councillor Ferguson has given to council over the last 3 years. I know he had massive aspirations of being the future mayor of Ōtorohanga when he came on board. But probably bigger and better things have come along in terms of his own progress within his work and promotion, and all the fine work that he does for Georgia AgriZone. So, Brian, your contribution here has been absolutely invaluable. For me, it's also very sad that you're stepping down at this point. A lot of our thought process are on the similar line, although at times we've probably been a total ends of the spectrum, in our opinion. But I think that's what being council is about as well. We bring our own individual views to council. We're not prepared to put them aside, that we actually express those freely. So we come up with a really good, good decision at the end of the day. So Brian, look, thank you so much. Also, and also, go out wide.
Can I do it at the end?
Brilliant, absolutely. Yep. Right,
Same.
Thank you. Right, moving on to confirmation of order of meeting, we've gone through that. Declaration of conflict of interest. There are any councillors that during today's meeting they have to declare a conflict of interest?
Yes, I do. For item 279 on the town concept plan, I have owner interest in land which will be discussed, so I will stand aside from any discussion and decision making.
Councillor. Now, moving on to the public forum, we're all aware of the agenda item today on the town concept plan discussions around neighbourhoods 5 and 9. With so many in the room at the moment, we have a public forum opportunity which goes for 30 minutes. And look, I'll go back one step. Firstly, thank you for your submissions. I had a very, very heavy afternoon yesterday reading through all the submissions and really impressed with the quality and the content of those of you that have submitted. Some incredibly valid points here. With today's discussion, because the hearings actually aren't until next week, the discussion will be around only those, the topic of neighbourhoods 5 and 9. So what I'll do at the moment is open up the floor to anybody who wishes to speak to that in the next half an hour. So please, whoever wishes to have a conversation first, you're welcome. I'm sure somebody wants to be first, they just wait.
Kia ora tātou, e wai ki tēnei ki te mihi ki te kaunihera, tēnā koutou, ko tai mai te whānui i runga te kanga. Engari kau e ware ki ngā whānau pani, o tēnā whānau ki tēnā whānau. Ka hoki tērā ki Karen, me tōna mātau kuini. Ngā mihi ki a koutou he tū waiti mō rātau. Engari tēnei rā, me hoki ngā kōrero ki te whānui o e ki o te kaupapa o tā rā. I stand here on behalf of the family, and the only agenda is neighbourhood 9 and neighbourhood 5. So thank you for giving us the opportunity. Kia ora tātou.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak to their submission on neighbourhoods 5 and 9? Thank you. So we'll get through the agenda, and once we'll be there very soon as the item comes up. Without much. Moving on to confirmation of minutes of Ōtorohanga District Council dated 16th of August. I take the minutes of the Ōtorohanga District Council meeting held on 16th of August and we circulate. I take them as read. For the movement of second, they are true and correct record. Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Cross, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Any agenda items that you need to talk to on that? Thank you. Next, receipt of minutes of the Kapia Community Board, 26th of August 2022. The Kapia District Council received the unconfirmed minutes of the Kapia Community Board meeting held on 26th of August 22 as circulated. I'm moving the second of those, please. Councillor Jeffries, Councillor Johnson, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Receipt of minutes of the Ōtorohanga Community Board dated 8 September 2022. That the Ōtorohanga District Council received the unconfirmed minutes of the Ōtorohanga Community Board meeting held on 2nd of June 2022 as circulated. The move was seconded. Councillor Christensen, Councillor Dow, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Moving on to my my verbal report. To those in the public gallery, what I do is just highlight what I've been up to over the last month following the last council meeting of what I deem to be outside of business as usual. So I attended a digital boost breakfast on the 18th of August in Ōtorohanga here. Mayor's Task Force for Jobs. I had a strategy meeting on the 19th of August. Attended the hui at Katahatangi Marae on town concept plan, which most of you will be aware of, on the 19th. Museum and town security events on the 23rd. I chaired a youth training and employment initiative with Waikato Plan on the 24th. Welcome Lucy Kurth as new principal of the college on the 25th. I caught up with the rangatahi that is employed through the employment hub on the 25th. I had a Ministry of Social Development and Mayor's Task Force of Jobs communications plan on the 26th. Kapi Community Board meeting also on the 26th. Life Education Trust fundraiser on the 27th. Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, Hui and Wellington on the 30th. Waikato Plan Hui on the 13th. Murray Trust Luncheon on the 14th. Town Concept Plan Hui and Old Gold Road on the 14th. Candidate breakfast and Town Concept Plan Hui on the 15th. And then the 19th, I met with Harvey Brooks from the Waikato Wellbeing Project. Let's just say. Any discussion or questions around those councils? Not, I'll move that my bill report be received. I've seconded. Seconded Councillor Christensen. Is carried. Moving on to item 279, which is the Ōtorohanga Town Concept Plan. Ross, I'll hand over to you, Nadia.
Thank you, Your Worship. Morena Koto, councillors. In late July, the draft Ōtorohanga Town Concept Plan was released for community feedback. As part of that process, Mana Whenua Hui was held on the 19th of August. I know a number of you attended that. At that hui, considerable concern was expressed by whānau groups whose whenua is located in neighbourhoods 5 and 9, where future industrial growth was to be considered. At that hui, a request was made to extend the submission period, which was subsequently agreed to. And a new closing date was set for the 16th of September, last Friday. Further hui with whānau groups were held last week. The concern expressed and the stress experienced by some whānau who believe control and ownership of their whenua was under threat was evident at these hui. The clear message from these hui and the 65 submissions now received was for Council to immediately amend the draft Ōtorohanga Town Concept Plan to remove the reference of industrial growth in neighbourhoods 5 and 9 and to consider other areas as optional instead. You'll see in my report that I support and recommend amending the growth strategy maps in the draft Town Concept Plan as requested. This is based on the fact that identifying areas for future industrial growth could still progress by considering other options. So this will still achieve one of the primary objectives of the Town Concept Plan process, which was to consider where the growth we know is coming ought to be located. Today, you're being asked to consider just the matter of future industrial growth in neighbourhoods 5 and 9. All other matters raised in the submissions provided to you as part of the agenda will be considered at the meeting next Tuesday, which is the 27th of September. Agreeing to this request does not stop business development, but any new development must be in accordance with the current district plan. I'm happy to answer any questions that elected members may have, Your Worship.
Thank you, Ross. Councillors, open to questions.
Such a significant change at this late stage. Does that not mean the submission of people put submissions on the old draft plan, now we're in draft plan number 1 or 2 or whatever? So should we not go back to the drawing board and start again? But I don't see the point in having submissions. The people that have already put submissions in have submitted on the plan that had at this stage. So. We're doing a major change before submissions, which I can't agree with, but it's decided.
Yes, so through Your Worship, we've had one submission that acknowledged that the thinking around future growth was appropriate, so we'll be in touch, depending on the outcome of your deliberations today, we'll be in touch with that person around their submission. But aside from that, I don't recall, and we're still going through the submissions, but I don't recall having gone through the feedback relating specifically to this matter, that there were other submissions that are potentially impacted by the decision you're considering today. So there was always an intention to consider, to undertake a further round of work around analysis and assessment and investigation, engagement, consultation. And what this recommendation does is take us a slight step back, but broaden out in terms of looking at other areas as options. So the process that was intended when the draft town concept plan was approved and released can still be progressed. We're just making this change, or I'm recommending that you make this change along the way.
Councillors, any further questions?
Your Worship, not so much a question. I think we need to acknowledge that along with the concerns that have been raised with 5 and 9, and I agree with those, that there's also been a lot of positive feedback provided by the submitters on other and related areas and themes. So I think we should acknowledge that the proposed change to this.
Yes, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that for me, it's been a wake-up call on how we actually do consultation. We have to think again about how we consult the whole community. One of the key learnings for me out of this is sometimes we just need to be, be out there with their representatives in a personal way to make sure that we understand that we've got everybody. And for me, personally, in the town square, flags out accosting people that we knew on the street to come in and put sticky notes on boards, but we still missed a lot of people. And so, like, for me, it's a wake-up call, and we just have to get better at what we're doing. So, just like to acknowledge the hui's and the coaching we've been given.
Thanks, Councillor Johnson. So, yes, Councillor Jeffries.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Roy. I think there's certainly been a gap in the consultation process, and as Roy said, it's been a good wake-up call for us. But it's I have to say, though, it's a two-way thing too. We can only go to the people that we know are the people, the right people, if you like, to talk to. So we need that feedback from you guys as well. So, but I certainly support what Ross is proposing here today. It's a bit of a no-brainer for me. We actually take 5 and 9 out and move on from there. Yep.
Thank you. Awesome, thank you. And just from my perspective, I think the hui for us has been incredibly valuable. There's no question about that. And just to reiterate what the other councillors have said, if I look at local government and government in general, I mean, we're all bound by legislation. We've followed a process for as long as I've been a councillor, as long as our chief executive has been a councillor, and longer than that again. So we follow what is a traditional way of process, how we do things. As mentioned in their last hui, was about us writing thoughts down and process down and presenting that, which we're learning and understanding that it is the wrong order in which to do process. The korero is the first thing, the conversation, to have that first, and then once we've had that talk, we can then write our thoughts down on paper and progress from there. I'd also just like to acknowledge the progress this council has actually made over the last or in recent years, from where we were a few years ago to where we are now. And I say that acknowledging that while we go through this journey, we're learning every step of the way. And I don't think we would have had this conversation 9 years ago. And I think about the progress we've made in terms of the connection with our Kamata, the connection we've made with Nehi Nui, and now the connection we're making with Mana Whenua. But this here, for us, is a slow, methodical journey as well. And I did read in a couple of the submissions, look, we acknowledge that change is happening, but it's not happening fast enough. And I kind of get that as well. I also know that to build a strong, meaningful relationship, it takes time, it takes conversation, and it takes mutual trust with each other. So just acknowledge that coming up later this year, we'll have that iwi relations position filled within council, which is going to fill a lot of those gaps that at this stage have been, I suppose, quite poorly exposed. We've got the iwi ward, which is going to have 2 Māori representatives on that in the next annum as well. So progress is going to be made. Again, I acknowledge that we haven't done things right, but we're trying. And I think as long as we keep on trying, and as long as we can keep on having a respectful conversation with each other, and if there's concerns, raise it with us. Don't wait until we get to the stage where all of a sudden it becomes heated, or the friction that is there unnecessarily. We don't want that. As mentioned at that last meeting, or the last hui we had, is I want this to work, and I want it to work in a real strong, meaningful way going forward. You know, there's a lot of, I suppose, the direction of the future for local government is about that greater relationship with iwi and Mount Whenua. But I don't want to do this because that is what we're legislated to do or what we're told to do. We want to do it because we want to do it. So, look, in terms of the turnout here, look, incredibly passionate people, absolutely get that. As Councillor Johnson said, the hui we had for us has been a wake-up call, and I think it's been very important in terms of the growth of the relationship between us. But also, I'd like to acknowledge the staff who are prepared to go, hey, wait a minute, let's have a listen, let's have another conversation as well. So, hey, I'm glad we're at this point. So right now I've got a staff recommendation in front of me, which I'll read out. And sorry, before I make the decision, just point out, last chance now before I make this resolution. If anybody has anything else they wish to add, we'll just need to get on with it. Okay. So that the Ōtorohanga District Council A received the submissions and feedback on the draft Ōtorohanga Town Concept Plan relating to neighbourhoods 5 and 9 as areas to be considered for future industrial growth. B, having considered the submissions, immediately amend the growth land use strategy maps and the draft Ōtorohanga Town Concept Plan to 1, remove the reference to future industrial activity in neighbourhoods 5 and 9, and 2, add an action to the action plan to undertake a separate process to identify and consider options as to where future industrial activity and growth could occur in and around Ōtorohanga. C, confirm the hearing previously resolved to be held on Monday, 29th of August for the draft Ōtorohanga Town Concept Plan to be held on Tuesday, 27th September 2022. And D, confirm an extraordinary meeting of Ōtorohanga District Council be held on Wednesday, 5th of October 2022. I'd like to move that. Do I have a second? Second, Councillor Williams. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. I'll put it to you all in the public galleries. Yeah.
Tēnā koe, worship, tēnā koutou, te whānau o zone 5 and 9, whānau tānui, ngā kaumātua, tēnā koutou. Ka nui te mi kia koutou, ku pai mai tēnā wai, te kaupapa tēnā koutou. Thank you for the opportunity to be here again. Worship. Thank you to the councillors. Thank you. I just want to say it's a good thing that you've taken industry out of 5 and 9. We appreciate that you heard our concerns, and we appreciate the corridor around the table this morning.
Excuse me.
We appreciate the opportunity to hear the corridor around the room from the councillors as well. I'd also like to acknowledge Ross and Nadia for your, from the beginning, Kendall and I, we did quite a big job in emailing you to get these submissions pushed out and getting, making sure that you stayed formal. And make sure that, you know, the hui with the Māori community happened. And yeah, we were prepared for that because we didn't want anything, we still don't, we really know we're not going away. We don't want anything to happen to our whenua, and I'm glad at this point today. Brother Tutanui said it the other day. Tutanui is our tupuna name, and you see his name around the street. Also pointed out how long we've been here. We want to take control of what happens to our people. We want to be involved in all the discussions that happen in Ōtorohanga because we are whanga whenua. We were here before, like I said, before the railroads came in, before you all came into Ōtorohanga. Yeah. Connected to Kāwhia, you know, through the tiny waka, we're connected to Kāwhia. So whatever happens in Kāwhia, you'll probably get the same places turn up there too. So we want to have a sustainable relationship with you. It's going to carry on forever. It's not just us now, it's our children, and it's our grandchildren, it's our mokopuna, you know, and it's from our tupuna. You know, I truly believe that they interfered this time and they made sure that this didn't happen again. Here they go again. It must be time to shut up. Yeah, so I just wanted to take the opportunity to speak on behalf of people that drove this. There were 7 hard weeks of work gone into this, and 7 hard weeks of work I have to say that we didn't have to do if it was done properly at the beginning. And we don't want to go through that again because we still have to work to feed our families, you know. And there was lots of late nights and weekends lost as a result of someone's fault. So, you know, yep, you know better now, so please do better. And we'll be here holding you accountable. And we want to stay involved. So we're letting you know that. You sent out the tono to us in the emails that, you know, our whānau, we'd like to keep these conversations going. So yes, we certainly would like that. We want to be invited to your table. Sorry. No, I think it's one thing, and I know that you don't need to be coached anymore. One thing that could have happened in a better way was that you invited the landowners to come and talk to you. That's not about consultation at that stage. That's an invitation to talk. And from that talk, you might have found out there were other places you could place the street. So I just want to leave with that part, and also that, you know, get some Treaty of Waitangi trainings going, and that's you can do that now. You don't have to wait for the liaison officer for that. They're available. Other councils are doing it, and I know that because I'm part of that as well. So, Nō reira, your worship, councillors, Maria Ross, Tania, Timothy, whānau, kuri ke nō reira, tina tātou, tina tātou, ki nātu.
E hara, I te mea, no e nai nei, te aroha no ha, tuku nai tuku iho, I tuku iho, te whenua, he oranga, mo te iwi noa, tuku nai tuku iho, I tuku iho.
Now, you're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the council meeting. That's entirely up to you all. If you wish to leave now, that's absolutely fine as well. With this opportunity to carry on. Okay, no one's moving, so you're staying now.
Thank you, the council. We got to go back to work.
Sorry about the interruption, Max.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, one day, Morris.
Welcome back, councillors. I'd like to move on to item 280, carryovers. Brenda.
Thank you. Probably a bit of a letdown from what we've just had. Clearly, not many people wanted to stay and listen to this, but I guess I won't go through the report in detail. I guess I'll just open up to questions. So I'll assume it's been read. Yeah, I suppose are there any questions about particular projects? I may have to mark up on some of them in some cases, but yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about particular items or the whole process or anything.
Any questions, councillors? Going back to the probably a point that Tony and I have discussed, and even you have as well, Brigham, is that most of them are works in progress, which is really good. That's rather than the expectation that all these projects get completed in 1 year, that they do carry over to subsequent financial years. Councillor Jeffries, your question.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, just a couple of quick ones. The Ōtorohanga Rural Recycling Centre, what's proposed there? Where's that located? Is that at the
I will have to Mark to come up to address that. I don't know the answer to that.
Morning, everyone. So we don't really know exactly where it's going to go yet. It's just in that house vicinity, but as we know, there used to be one, I think, situated at the shop, but that had a change of ownership again this year, so we just haven't progressed in that area.
So that discussion still we had with the new owners. Yeah, okay. Just one other thing that's not on here, but I just wanted to raise it with the water main renewals at Carfia, which are programmed for next year. Yep. I wondered if we could have a discussion at some stage about fire hydrants. I think I've mentioned it too, but there's some concern that that Carfia doesn't have sufficient fire hydrants to undertake adequate fire control. So just sort of mention it now in case we need to do any future planning before we get too far down the track with the renewals. Yeah.
So obviously we'll put them all in as per the regulations, but there's always the opportunity for additional ones. And
okay. That's good. Thank you.
Councillor Foss.
My question is, your carryovers seem to be increasing each year. Does that mean that you're unrealistic about what you can achieve in a certain time, or other people making it more difficult for you to actually get things done in the time that it's allocated for?
yeah, I can answer. I think it's probably a realisation that some of the projects are quite substantial, and to try and finish them in 1 year, it's just So you've got to be prepared to start that project and work in a 3-year time frame, which is what we work on our LTP. So some of them we get done well within time, some just continually flow through. So, and I mean, we've probably had quite a challenging the last couple of years, and some of the projects just don't get completed on time. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, no, I just,
Yeah.
you know, you're taking on too much and you can't deliver, you just can't deliver on it. But anyway.
Yeah, I suppose it's a balance, isn't it? You want to make sure you identify the work that needs to be done, and then you aim to do it. And hopefully you get it done. It's not until you start some projects you realise how complex they might be. So you either don't put them forward and don't do anything, or you put them forward and get the sort of goal that you aim for.
I guess this year has been an interesting one as well, because we have had obviously additional projects with the 2.5 million we got from DIA for water funding. So as well as what we'd already planned to do as part of the long-term plan, we had this additional projects that we had to finish by 30th to be able to get the money. So there was additional workload, I guess, for this particular.
And that's a really good point, as we have been working with a whole extra, I suppose, sets of expectations on staff with the reform going on, and it all takes time.
I think one of the big differences to a couple of years ago is they actually just the majority of the works in progress as opposed to get nothing started.
Yeah.
That was a real concern when the figures were very similar 3 years ago, but there's nothing actually happening. So, you know, I think a bit of flexibility when we look at the whole procurement process, labour access, all the issues that have gone on the last 2 years. But you're right, I'm something we keep an eye on. Sure.
Okay, and I just hope that you do the right thing by the Ōtorohanga scheme. Over the years, there's been a lot of investment in that by people who were never paid. It was volunteer work in the old days, and I would like to think that it's not going to dissipate. Thank you. I'll hear about it. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, which it was just, yeah, I think we also need to keep, we've made a definite move to more project management of these types of things, and it's unrealistic to design, like plan design and get it all done in a 12-month period. So whether that, that's still called carryovers, but yeah, the way we're managing it.
Just a transition from one financial year to another, isn't it? Job's still happening. Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, Brendan, on page 4 of mine. Just going down the year-to-date variance, the column along the bottom one, other general sources is the biggest.
That's the financial report. We're not up to that one yet.
Oh. Oh, okay, I'll be on. Sorry, we're on to
Rather carry over.
okay, I'll hold that. I'll hold that.
Yeah, hold that question.
I'll let it come down. Councillor Johnson.
Yeah.
Any further questions, councillors? Okay, if not, we have staff recommendation to approve the carryovers as listed in the staff recommendation. So move in a second, please. Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Dow, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 281, approval of projects and application. Thanks, Marina. Thanks, Nadia.
Hello, councillors. I believe the report covers the high-level aspects of the Better Off Fund and the two-step one-owner process, which has resulted in the recommendation before you. I would like to note in 7.1 of the report, which states that staff would undertake a week-long survey to gather community sentiment on council applying to the government to support the Ōtorohanga College. To give council confidence in the recommendation before you, a yes/no survey was launched last Tuesday, and the result is at now is only 1 nay from a total of 396 responses. Lastly, I'll note that the submissions need to be lodged by 30 September, so that's next Friday. And other than that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Awesome. So considerable amount of money being focused on the college here. I'm sure the Board of Trustees are incredibly happy about it.
Yes, they're very supportive.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor
Not
Bell?
really a question, it's a comment. I think it's, yeah, it's great. The taxpayers are going to give us some money to dish out to our kids. And all those people that were in the room before, they all got grandkids or their own kids to give that boost to the college, which is probably needs it. And I think it's awesome. So I really hope we can move this, onwards and upwards. So, yeah, it wasn't my idea. Well, not my idea, but no, I can't take credit for it. It's just, it's an opportunity, and it's one very rewarding thing that I've been on council that I can actually put forward something. Like listen, maybe my life will be a success after all, because it isn't already. I was trying to be a TikTok star, but nah, really awesome. I hope we can all support it. So.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic in terms of your suggested initiative and how it's come to the stage already. And in terms of the school that has founded for a number of years now, hopefully this is the injection that it needs to really boost it. So Nadia, it's now that the application goes in, and then obviously we don't know whether that answers the yay or nay.
That's correct. So we have done some preliminary checking with the DIA on all the proposed projects, and in principle they've said yes. So it's just a matter of writing a good application and getting it across the line.
Any further questions, councillors?
No, just
Councillor Johnson. Councillor Jeffries. Any first?
Just with the fantastic the priority there. I'm just wondering about the other priorities. How do see this 4 in and 3 out? How was that arrived at?
So within the second wānanga that we had of the working group, which was established during the first wānanga that we held, we went through each of the 7 projects, which are the 7 on there, and they used dot democracy like we did in the first wānanga to essentially vote on which their preferred projects were to go forward. And the 4 top ones, by some mere miracle, equaled 2.6 million, and we have 2.66 in the first tranche.
Yeah, what was the invitation for the second one to all the people who came to the first one, or was it as well as I'm sort of under the impression it was instead of, but obviously I didn't participate in the second one.
So in the first one, we asked for a working group to be formed, and at that point, in terms of councillors, Rodney had put his hand forward, and some remaining councillors said if he couldn't make that meeting, that they would step in his place.
Yeah, look, I'm happy with democracy, but yeah, I'm just a bit disappointed. I had the second idea, and it's got a lot of points, but it's been left off, and I guess somebody's to be left off. It's just the way it is. But yeah, without any chance to defend it at the second one, I just feel a bit disappointed. Yeah.
Councillor Jeffries.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. Through you, Your Worship, Nadia, in that first workshop that we had, when we had everything up on the wall there, the ones that, if we want to call it not successful, have they been advised? Have those people that actually brought forward the ideas that were put up on the wall, have they in any way been informed as to why their idea didn't proceed, or have they got any advice at all as to why their ideas weren't proceeded with?
So in the first one, everyone that had put their ideas up on the day was still in the room when the top 7 were identified.
Yes.
And that was followed up with through an email.
Yeah. Oh, was it?
Yes.
Okay. Good, okay,
through you, Your Worship. And so to round this out,
yes,
if council approves what's in front of you today, we will circle back to that wider group and say it's now been through the following process and here's where we've ended up.
Excellent.
So that kind of just closes that sort of loop there,
Yep.
right?
no, that's fine. Okay. And can I just add one further thing about the college, that application, if you just remind me, because I did respond to that survey. But did that include funding for the hostel? Can't remember.
Yes.
It did, yep, because that's one of the key critical elements of keeping that college going, is that hostel operational, because otherwise the kids from out our way got nowhere to go, really. So that's, to me, that's probably number one. Yeah.
So we've taken advice from the Board of Trustees
Yep.
on what they feel is priority within their school in front of that.
And where the hostel fit in their priorities.
It's in there. Excuse me, I'll just tell you which page.
Just if I can add to it. So there's a couple of issues. One of them is the physical structure and not the structure, but the actual hostel as a facility.
Yep.
The second one is around its sustainability as a kind of paying,
Yep.
paying and board there. And so the board, as Nadia said, have given us advice on where they would put the funding here, but they also recognise that they have another issue to sort out that they need to work through as
Sure.
well, right?
Yep.
So it's not completely putting, a kind of band-aid on on it. It's just focusing the funding on where the board has said that it's needed,
Okay.
right?
Any further? Okay, we have the recommended option here in front of us to approve the recommendation of the Better Off Fund Wānanga Working Group and staff with the following projects, contingency projects, associated costs, including staff administration costs, comprise the council submissions to the Better Off Fund. Move Councillor Dow. I'll second that. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Nadia, thanks for the work that's gone into this. Certainly those working groups and the forum we're having here has been really, really cool. And it's great to get that. Yeah, the feedback from the community is in terms of what we really want going forward with this federal funding. So thank you for the work.
Oh, Your Worship, I'm sorry, I should have brought this up during discussion. Can I just talk very quickly about the Kaora track? In your report here, there's a suggestion that the part of the project is to disestablish the track and replant it with native trees.
Yeah, the seawall project.
Yeah, the
councillor.
seawall project. I've had some discussions already about this, and frankly, unless there's an alternative to that track as agreed and funding available, that existing track has to stay. So the comments that I've been getting is that the current maintenance of the track's inadequate. That there's self-sown vegetation popping up everywhere, especially wattles. It's blocking the view of the harbour. There are sections of that track that are dangerous when wet. All those sorts of issues. So I think that if anything's going to be done to that track, it needs to go back through the community board. Yep, that's the starting point. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nadia. Moving on to item 282, dangerous and incendiary building policy 2022. Andrew.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll take my report as read and just a brief little summary. So our existing dangerous and sanitary building policy has been reviewed and you have been presented with a proposed update to that policy to bring it in line with the amendments to the Building Act back in 2016. Was a requirement of the original policy and this proposed revised policy that the document be approved for public consultation, which is the decision we're asking of you today. So happy to take any questions about the report.
Any questions, councillors?
I've got a couple of questions. Thank you. Andrew, I think the report answers it, but just can you confirm, does the policy include buildings on the rise? Meeting houses,
All buildings.
dining halls, toilet facilities, all that sort of stuff?
Yep. but they would probably qualify for special consideration, and as I think I mentioned in point 5.2. And so the specific mention there of buildings of significance, iwi, and other buildings of significance to the community in the policy.
In the table that follows, Andrew, under the heading in sanitary buildings, defined in section 123 of the Act.
Sorry, it's we in the policy itself.
Yep.
Where are we? Yep.
There's no page number, I'm sorry. Oh, it
Yep.
might be 193, 194,
Yep,
something
no,
like that.
found it, yep.
Yep. Are you saying, was this policy basically saying that once something's been identified and a notice has been served, that we just step away from it? And it's up to the owners then to do it?
No, not at all.
Okay.
So the aim of the policy is that there will be discussions and negotiation to get compliance from the owner.
Yep.
To remedy or rectify the matters that have been identified. There always remains a ability to take stricter enforcement action if necessary.
Right. But in the case, Andrew, of someone perhaps who's living in a building that's deemed to be unsanitary and perhaps don't have the wherewithal to do what's necessary, are you saying that we would help facilitate funding through some other agency to help them along that with
We
them?
would reach out to our other community partners to see what solutions could be raised. There's no requirement for council to provide that funding.
No. I appreciate there's no legal requirement, but do we have a social obligation to help?
Because we have a social obligation, and we have to be mindful that obviously in the assessing these situations, there's always the option to turn these people out, but you have to be careful that turning them out, you don't turn them out from, from bad to worse.
Yes,
Okay.
right.
So, yeah, it's a more holistic view. I think that's the idea that the policy is trying to promote. We take a holistic view of their situation and the options available and solutions if there are any.
Okay, no, that's good. Thank you.
I tried to find it, but did we refer to heritage buildings? Have we got a heritage building list, or are we using that as a descriptive to use like for consideration?
Yeah, no, there's a list of heritage buildings in the back of the district plan. I think we have about probably 10 in the district.
Only 10? And so yeah, that takes a district plan review to change that.
So unlike what Councillor Jeffries was alluding to about dangerous and sanitary buildings, when councils list heritage buildings, that comes with an obligation that you may potentially sometime in the future have to put your hand in your pocket to protect them or enhance them. So the criteria for a heritage building is fairly high. It has to have a heritage value, either through some unique factor in its construction or some unique historical connection with a date, a person, like William Shakespeare's house, for example, or something like Catch for New Zealand context. Catherine Mansfield's house might be better. But yeah, so that's how it is. And the Heritage New Zealand has criteria for assessment for those, and that assessment is also layered, so you get national layers, and then you come down to more district level, which may not be quite as high as a national heritage listing.
So it's not just a strong family relationship.
Well, I suppose it depends what everyone has special places, but whether that criteria is enough for a district and you as a council to adopt that, and that's a decision that's made when the district plan goes up for review.
Nothing further. Thanks, Andrew. So, recommendation here that Ōtorohanga District Council approves the draft dangerous and sanitary buildings policy, document number 650516, and saving the proposal document number 650536 for public consultation between 1 November and 31 November 2022. Do I move and second for that, please? Move Councillor Jeffries, second Councillor Kloss. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Thanks, Andrew. Moving on to item 283, delegations and the interregnum period. Is that the right pronunciation?
Yeah.
Tanya, over to you.
Yeah. I just need to find. So, through your worship and kia ora koutou, apologies for my lateness today. I think this is probably the first time that we've brought a formal report in front of council to give me delegation in the period between when you cease to be an elected member and when you're officially sworn in the new training, or the new council is sworn in the new training. So really what this is proposing is that I am given delegation to enable us to continue to be business as usual during that time. And when the election happens and the mayor-elect is known, that would be in consultation with the mayor-elect. If there was any kind of recount or any challenge to the process around the election, then I would just continue to exercise these delegations on my own.
Thank you. It seems pretty straightforward. Any questions, councillors? Yes,
Comment of leadership, like this was discussed at joint committee earlier on months, so with the exception in this report, that's the joint committee standards. Yeah, during that period, except for the my understanding is it's except for declarations which will be made by the office.
Thank you. The recommendation is that the Ōtorohanga District Council approve the following delegations. A, that from 8 October 2022 until the inaugural meeting of council, the Chief Executive Officer or Acting Chief Executive Officer is authorised to make decisions in respect of urgent matters. When the mayor-elect is known, this will be in consultation with the mayor-elect. Part B, in the event of a pandemic or emergency occurring, the Chief Executive Officer or Acting Chief Executive Officer is delegated all the powers and functions of the local authority other than those which may not be delegated. This delegation expires in the convening of a valid meeting of the Ōtorohanga District Council. Councillor Williams, second by Councillor Dowell, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 284, financial and capital projects report for the month ending 31st of August 2022. Brendan and welcome back up. Thank you.
Okay, so I will cover off the financial and Mark will cover off the capital as we always do. Yes, in terms of the financial statement of comprehensive revenue and expenses. So we've got a net surplus at the end of August of $4.1 million against a budget of 4.2. In terms of some of the variances there, subsidies and grants is down. Since this report was put together, we've done a claim to NZTA for $867,000, which they've agreed. So actually we're up on budget then, if you include those figures back in August, which we will. And then that, to get to that figure that we've claimed, there was actually some last minute claims that came through after this report was done as well. So the other expenses are actually up, or some of it's maintenance and something. In terms of the other items, his worship brought up earlier to me about the water by volume rates being negative. And he just wanted me to explain that a bit further. So what happened there was some of the invoicing was done towards the end of the year, 30th of June, was actually processed into the system on the 30th of June. We rolled into the new financial year. When we were checking the invoices before we sent them out, there was a couple where an incorrect reading had been entered. So it looked like they'd gone completely around the clock and we're going to be charged for about 100,000 cubes. We obviously picked that up, fixed it, but we fixed it in the current financial year, not last year. So that's a negative income in this year, just to, because we fixed that error up. That's what that's about. And then I suppose the other negative to talk about is the finance costs and expenses, which is actually shown effectively income. That is related to the accrual for the interest on the $4 million loan we've got. We've reversed that accrual out into the current year, obviously, and as when the loan comes, or the interest on the loan comes due, which I believe will be when the loan comes due in November, that will get processed into, oh no, sorry, no, No, the first lot will be 6 months, so it'll be October, actually, 6 monthly interest. We took the loan out in April, so it's October, sorry. That will reverse itself out. That's it'll be back to zero. In terms of the balance sheet, so we've got a pretty healthy position. 8.3 million of working capital. Most of that being in cash and cash equivalents, because obviously the first installment of rates is due by the end of August, so March, that paid. And then over the page on our combined cost of service statement. So again, the activity revenue is down because of the subsidy, which, like I say, we've got 867 just approved by NZTA yesterday. The land transport operating expenditure, there's about another 700,000 or 800,000 of claims that were done after this report was done that sit in there related to August. So that puts us about on budget there. Capital wise, so these budgets are excluding the carryovers, which is now approved. So when we present September's or the next lot of accounts, whatever that is, I guess it depends with the elections and when we have a meeting, we'll include the carryover amounts in those figures. So you'll be comparing it to a slightly different figure at that point. And all the funding stuff is all sort of done at year end, so none of that's been done at this point. So I guess any questions? Now I know there was a question about the other general sources. So what was the question exactly?
Yeah, just as a result of internal charges. Sorry, on paragraph 3,
oh, yeah.
on the last line, it says as a result of internal charges, what's in this 5.
Yeah.
Can you just explain that? Well, please, I thought with less activity, less internal charges.
So the other general sources is the income we get from. So staff sit in departments and they charge their time out to other departments depending on what they're working on. So for example, the water services guys sit in one department, and the cost of their salaries and all that goes through them. They charge their time out to Arahina Rural Supply or to or the sewage scheme or stormwater, whatever. Because of the timing of the capital work, a lot of their time isn't charged out until the actual capital project's happening. So there's standard timing, our standard charging in terms of maintenance and that sort of stuff, but capital stuff, we budgeted that how we think we're going to spend the capital during the year, but if we haven't actually spent that money, the time's not going against it. So yeah, so the budget for the income is matched to the budget from the capital expenditure, but because as you can see, we're under in terms of the capital expenditure in some cases, that means that we haven't got the income. Yeah, it all works out at the end of the year and it comes back to a zero balance. But it's a timing issue during the year, particularly in August, beginning of the year. So, yeah, and as we go through the year, we'll probably see that will smooth out and get closer. That makes sense.
Any further questions of that before we move on to Mark? Yeah, Mark, over to you. Thanks, Brendan. Capital projects update.
Thank you. So I'll take my portion of the report as read. But just highlighting a couple of things with 25 major projects this year that we've listed there. We're still trying to close off the end of the stimulus funding, and I hope by the end of this month that will all be done with just the slight delays we've had up in Mountain View Reservoir with some valves. So that'll be a good piece of work completed that I won't have to report in the next meeting, hopefully. Once that's finished, we'll be able to make a request for that final amount of fund. You'll see there we've got the rehabilitation work. It's still out for tender at the moment for Mangamahoe and Turitea, and also their steel extension work for Renu. That's planned for this year, and also a new footpath for Lawton Drive in Aotea. So that's all underway at this stage, at various stages. And you'll see that we've got those 2 slips that we're about to start work on. We believe probably in the first or second week of October, we'll actually start construction on those. We're just waiting for some pricing to come back on those two jobs. Water supply, you'll notice that we've started that. We've dug up the main street, and almost, I think tonight they actually do the changeover. So on the new water main, so that's progressing really well. We've been really impressed with that project so far. And from there, they'll move up into doing the new rising main from the water treatment plant all the way up to the new Thompson Ave Reservoir. So that's a considerable larger piece of work, about 1.2 kilometres of new water line. So that probably a little less disruptive than the one we've just done, but still a very big project about to start. So. And the wastewater project. So and I suppose that's a really good example of the wastewater projects that we've got planned. It's taken us a year to get just through the design. So now we're moving into tender. When you look at capital projects, now they have to span a series of years rather than 1 year. Sometimes that's probably a really good example. So I've sort of changed things around a little bit. I think it's probably still not perfect in my little project table there, but added a little pie graph to sort of give you a bit of a snapshot of how things are moving without too much detail. And I'm sure you can ask some questions on further detail, but I've also included one major project with community facilities this year, which is the 50-year extension of the cemetery. So that's currently out for tender at the moment, and we'll be looking to start probably in the summer months. So that's quite a large earth-moving project, which will give us some more resilience in that area. So yeah. Oh, there is one mistake too, which I only just picked up on this morning. And that's item 15 in my sort of schedule of projects. It should be scheduled 0323, not 24. And I'll make sure I fix that up.
Thanks, Mark. Actually, I do appreciate your graphs and gives us a lot more clarity around what's going on with the time frames associated. So, any questions of our councillors? Yes, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, Mark, what's the time frame for the contractors using that car park at the back of by the railway line there? Is it how long is you going to have that disruption for?
So that's only for this project.
Okay.
So as soon as that project's finished, they'll move to a different establishment point.
So it's after the main street part is done.
Yeah. We may revisit that site again in next year's review when they start Lawrence Street. But yeah, it should, I mean, it's not a permanent location.
Just one worship, worship through you. Mark, the water testing at Carfield Harbour. Are you happy with the period that we're testing?
Is that the next agenda item, Councillor?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the update on Carfield wastewater, is that what you mean?
Yes, it is. Okay, no, I can wait.
Yeah.
Like Councillor
Johnson.
I'm getting very excited about it. Yes, my apologies. Yeah.
Okay, there's no further questions on this. You've got one question, sorry.
Definitely on this.
Okay.
Thank you. Also reach out, sorry, just so that the live stream can hear. I'm getting messages to say that some people we can't hear them.
Ōtorohanga Drive, what's the extent of the footpath on there, is it? Because parts of it have got no footpath at the moment.
So we're sort of only just sort of starting to work that out.
Okay.
Because that was a project that was put in this annual plan. So
just context, I had an inquiry, like we were out there recently.
Yeah.
And a resident on Lawton Drive wanted to cover them.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering whether this project will be helping this problem.
Yeah, so my early discussions I've had is to go all the way from the playground end right through to the end, basically. So what that looks like at this stage.
Okay. That's extensive.
Yeah.
It is.
I think it was epic.
Whether we get there or not.
So it's just footpath only, not curb and channel as well, just footpath only.
Yeah.
But putting a footpath in, you're not going to leave it so that it gets flooded.
No, you wouldn't think so.
No.
So will it be elevated and passed through?
Oh, probably a little bit more detail than I know at this stage, but I'm sure it won't be underwater. Right.
Any further questions, councillors? We have a staff recommendation. Thanks, Mark. The Ōtorohanga District Council received a report titled Financial and Capital Projects Report for the month ending 31 October 2022, document number 651597 from Brendan, Finance Manager Mark, for Manager Engineering and Assets. On the move and second for those, please. Councillor Jeffries, Councillor Dow, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Thanks, guys. Moving on to item 285, Carpenter Wastewater Needs Assessment Project Update. Ross, or are you doing
I might
that?
as well say-
I might stay, but I think Ross delivering a report that I know Kit's question.
Yeah.
Can I ask that, Danny? Richard?
Yeah.
Um,
Just see wait till Ross. Speak to the woman.
He's just gathering up his sporran, I think.
So, Your Worship, this is the keys rattling in my purse. Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So I'll take the report as read, but it has been a few months since this project kicked off. So perhaps I'll just take a moment or two just to run back through some of the key elements in the project, and I'm sure where I leave any gaps, Mark can fill those. So you'll recall that this was a specific project council confirmed as part of the long-term plan adoption, having regard to quite a number of submissions that came through the draft LTP process. And the project was really founded on or based on the concern that we had received not only through the LTP process, but prior to that, around the performance and potential impact that septic tanks may be having on groundwater in Kāwhia, and in turn, what impact that may be having on Kāwhia Harbour. The project had three elements to it. The first was a on-site survey of a selected number of properties to gauge an overall profile of likely performance of septic tanks in Kāwhia. So this was not a regulatory exercise. It was undertaken by independent consultants who are experienced in this work, and as I say, just to build up an overall profile, a risk profile, if you will. So that was the first element. The second element was some targeted testing, and that testing has to this point focused on known stormwater elements. And then the third matter related to a funding model in terms of affordability, which was of significant concern to a number of the submitters to the LTP process. So the idea was that the needs assessment components, so those first two elements, the risk profile and the testing, would be undertaken, and the outcome of that would then inform further work around funding and eventually how we might secure additional funding if the project was to go ahead. We did signal in the LTP that that was likely to come from government. We put out an information sheet in and around the Kāwhia community. Those three elements were clearly expressed in that information sheet. We also indicated a target timeframe that we anticipated the work would be completed. So we've completed the risk profile component, but we have yet to finish the sampling and testing work. So we're seeking, and we have had some feedback, I think, in the last couple of days, seeking feedback from others, including the Waikato Regional Council, around what other testing we should be considering as part of developing an overall robust profile for this needs assessment. So today is a progress update for you. So we are not in a position yet to report on the outcome, but we anticipate that that's likely to happen prior to Christmas. Part of the commitment to the Kāwhia community was that once we have this information and we've been able to pull together a report, we would make that information or that report available to people in the Kāwhia community. And that was ahead of any formal consideration that council might give to this project as a community wastewater scheme for Kāwhia. So Mark, what have I missed?
No, you've done really well.
I'll add that this report is on the Kāwhia Community Board's agenda for this week as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Ross. Any questions from Councillor Jeffries?
Thanks, Your Worship. Yes, Ross, or two questions. The feedback you've had from Regional Council, are they suggesting that the testing should be extended to other areas other than stormwater outlets?
Yes, please.
So we only just received that.
Oh, okay.
Stuff yesterday,
Yeah.
I think, and I forwarded it on.
Okay.
So we haven't read it yet.
Right. Well, I can tell you that Mr. Mulkey, Tom Mulkey out there has told me that there are times during the year where you can actually see the pollution, for want of a better word, actually seeping out into the harbour from areas where there is no stormwater. Okay, so it's obviously a groundwater leaching through. So if the testing is going to be robust, I think it needs to be extended past just stormwater outlets, if you know what I mean. It should be along the foreshore.
Yes, and I think through your worship, that's certainly the consideration we've been given to this in terms of what that next sampling assessment phase in this project looks like.
Great. And the only other question was, are you happy with the testing period? Because I gather that we started this around, was it March, April when we kicked it off?
February, I think.
Was February, was it? Okay, so the fact that the testing hasn't been done at a time when the absentee owners and the visitor numbers in Kāwhia are at their greatest, is that going to give you a better indication? You see what I'm trying to say? If the population over in the town expands to 2,000 or 3,000 over the summer period, then obviously that potential has to flow through to the testing, I would have thought.
So you're right there. So we have scheduled some of that sampling either side of public holidays.
Great.
So obviously we haven't done one either side on the other side of Christmas, although February is pretty close. It's probably not the peak of COVID. So we will review the report, and then Ross and I will get together and look at the other areas that we might consider, and that's something that has been brought up already, is that possible groundwater leaching out of the banks. Like, so it's worth pursuing and deciding.
Okay, no, that's good. All right, thank you very much.
I suppose what it does collect those when the water table was really high as well.
Yeah.
You know, in the winter months. So yes, certainly the best of both worlds is what we need here.
It is. There's that classic example of the it was the rusty snapper put in a septic tank, and the very next king tide that came that popped it out of the ground. So you know, obviously the tides, the sea level is actually not very far from the surface of the ground in those areas, and yeah. So what I'm saying there is that if it's got soakage fields, there's only one way for it to go, isn't it? It's out to the harbour.
Yeah. You've also got considerable amount of sand filtration too.
Yes.
Which those I suppose discharges are filtering through before they show themselves. So,
very good, thank you.
Any further questions, councillors? If not, we have the staff recommendation that the Ōtorohanga District Council received the report titled Kāwhia Wastewater Needs Assessment Project Update, document number 65110 from Ross, Chief Advisor. movement of second by councillor Jeffries, second by councillor Dow, all in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Thanks, guys. 286, 2021-22 annual survey results. Nadia, welcome back.
Thank you again, Your Worship. So just to recap, the annual resident survey was a required undertaking decided through the long-term plan 21-31 to gather specifically 5 performance measures, which are identified in the report. It provided a great opportunity for us to ask the broader questions and how we're doing as a wider council. The information report points to 4 separate surveys that council undertook as part of this first of ongoing annual program to determine the satisfaction levels of council services, assets, performance and quality of relationships. The outcome of the annual surveys further provides council a base on which to design and implement improvement plans and measure our results year on year. This report presents the results of the 21-22 survey and establishes a baseline level of satisfaction, which, as you can see, is good to very good. Responses to the open questions have highlighted opportunities for improvements in specific areas. An improvement plan will be based on this first survey, and we will present that to council in the new triennium, which will also identify areas that are already being addressed. Another aspect council staff will be seeking to improve is the number of survey participants. This will give council greater confidence in the survey results and those areas that we can improve in. I did note a few grammatical errors when rereading the attached survey last night in one wayward graph, so I do apologise for that. I've hopefully corrected those errors. The report will be made publicly available on our website and will be emailed to those who requested so through the survey submission. With that, I'm happy to take any questions you have of either the information report or the attached survey result report.
Awesome. Thanks, Nadia. It's good to see that some of those issues highlighted in the council mark report have been addressed in the survey to public statements are. So, yeah, really good progress there. Look, I mean, as much as we've got margin of error, which is outside of what we'd ideally like, it's a great starting point. And it's a great starting point with a positive note to it, which is even better. So, yeah, really, really pleased. I think there's a lot of progress to be made in the last couple of years. And it's a shame this is really the first one, so we don't have a lot of referencing that we can go to, but at least we've got a starting point now, which I'm really looking forward to where we are in a year's time. So thank you. Questions, councillors?
Just a quick one, Your Worship, please. Nadia, well, firstly, a comment. I wouldn't be too worried about the numbers. I know that when we did it down at Waitomo, it took 2 or 3 years before people started to get used to the idea of that there is a survey and they can actually, so it'll build up over time, I'm sure, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. Just one quick question in terms of communication. The issue that's been raised on a number of occasions out our way is that how do we get to absentee property owners? How do we intend in this communication going forward to address or getting information out to absentee landowner or property owners?
Through you, Your Worship, absentee meaning their holiday home
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're still ratepayers and they still should have some input if they want to, obviously. But there are a number of those out there who can't fit in. I know that the community board chairman out there has raised this on numerous occasions, is concerned that we're not getting to those people, and I just wondered how we could address that.
Well, Your Worship, can I clarify what sort of information you mean? Anything, like any council communication?
Well, anything that's going out to everybody else that they're not getting.
So anything that's like mailed out or anything that, because this was online, right? So we didn't post. I'm just, the reason I'm asking is I'm an absentee ratepayer in another district. And so my expectation is that I have more, I guess, I more proactively need to engage with that council because I'm not there to clear my letterbox every day. And so I keep an eye on their website or their Facebook page, and the little community that I own land in has its own Facebook page. So I link in with that. So I'm just, I guess in order for us to respond to that, it would be useful to kind of know, is it just everything, or is it specific kind of, you know, information?
I think probably going back to Dave Walsh's concern, it's more to do with issues that require some level of consultation.
Okay, so that basis, that
Yeah.
kind of face-to-face.
Yeah,
kind of gets
That,
on.
that's pretty much it.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't think they're interested in everything that
Yeah,
we're doing, if
yeah.
you know what I mean, but
Yeah.
certainly anything that they can have some say on or some input into. Yeah.
So we have recently invested in an online platform called Engagement HQ, which is still in its phase of being set up. And through that, it has a CRM system, what do you call it?
Customer relationship management.
Thank you.
Yep.
So what we can do, thinking off the cuff here, councillor, is do some promotion in Kapia over summer and give them options on how they can keep updated with information that we have. So highlighting our social media platforms and our website, but also inviting them to sign up to the Engagement HQ app, and they can identify areas of particular interest where we can push that particular messaging to.
Right.
We're also in the throes of trialing a phone app, which also pushes notifications.
That would be a great start. Thank you. Yep. No, very good. Thank you.
Any further councillors? Awesome. Okay, moving on to the recommendation that Ōtorohanga District Council receive a report titled 2021-22 annual survey results, document number 65.191 for Nadia Cow, Career Manager Strategy and Community. Moved by Councillor Johnson, seconded by Councillor Christensen. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Thanks, Nadia. Really cool looking. As I said, just really looking forward to where this heads in the future.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor updates. Councillor Bell.
As you know, the last meeting I was at a regional, well, that was called Connections Committee submissions. So anyway, that was basically about how the public transport, a lot of it, how, so that was what I attended. So we had to listen to submissions, and then we had to a lot of people want to try and get the train going, but yeah, so that's yeah. But then, so then we had to deliberate on them, and then so there was been a couple of meetings of that with the Regional Transport Committee and the Regional Connections. So basically, these things have been adopted. So hopefully there's an emphasis now on public transport for the regions rather than it was pretty much a Hamilton bus sort of, you know. But now they're looking at what we've extended it so that they will look more at getting people from the regions and having some sort of public transport service available. How that sort of all ends up, we're not 100% sure yet, but we did vote on that, and yeah, so that's positive for our area, I suppose. The other day I attended a Zoom meeting with QBR committee who are wanting to paint the bridges that as you enter town, like the railway bridge and the one south. Pretty much NZTA guy, he said you can paint them whatever colour you want, they're never going to bother painting them. Yeah, so yeah, they've got no budget for it. So please yourself by how you paint them. But basically he tried to put all these things in front of you. You have to get health and safety and you have to get over. So yeah, it's the start of the project. Hopefully we tidy them up because they look pretty very terrible. But yeah, so it's a matter of trying to work in when they want to do maintenance. So otherwise you can understand it would almost be unaffordable for the QBR committee or whoever's going to fundraise it for it to paint them, whilst they have to pay all the health and safety and all the road closures and the road run, you know. So then they're going to consult with the Environment Regional Council because some paint flakes might fall in the river. And but yeah, lots of hurdles to jump still, but we're at the starting line. So that, but yeah, the NZK have got no issue with it. Yeah, paint them whatever colour you want. So that's cool. Yeah, apart from that, pretty much about it. Yeah. Thank you. Cheers.
Yes, Councillor Ferguson.
Well, hi, I've got a lot to report. I've been sitting back quietly watching all you others go around a bit. Look, we're going to do a wind up sort of now.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Look, I wish us all the best going forward, and your comments, Max, that I was thinking about me, I probably still am. You know? Look, I'm 60 years old. I've still got a lot of work to do. I'll be keeping an eye on this council over my time not being on it, and we'll see what happens in the next 3 years. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a real learning curve. It hasn't scared me away at all. It is just work commitments. It's just been where it is. So going forward, I'm sure this council will, you know, having that full forum today, and I agree with you, Max. We have come a long way, even in the 3 years that I've been on here, on talking to our community. You're never going to get it right all the time, but we're here to listen, and we will listen. And what we don't know, we don't know. So I think people need to understand that from the forums that we have. But yeah, all the best in the future, and I've really enjoyed my time on council. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor.
I've attended a couple of Kiwiana meetings lately, which is really cool to go on their journey and upward. The security meeting, which I think was really positive, but reading through 400 and something pages in the last 24 hours, there was lots of, well, a few comments about security. So I think we actually need to involve the community in that conversation now, not just the businesses. That's really important. And then, this is our last meeting. Yeah, really like to thank the staff for opening their doors for Council Mark, and everyone around here, around this table, because yeah, out of 78 councils, only 26 have opened themselves up to be scrutinised and improve on, because that's what it is. It's so we can improve on it ourselves. And yeah, I'm really, really proud to have been part of that journey. And I think since then, like Councillor Ferguson has said, our communication has got way better and is getting better all the time. So yeah, whether or not I sit around this table again, I'm really proud of that. Yeah, and thank everyone else here too.
Thanks, Councillor.
That's me.
Councillor Johnson.
Well, I guess I'm the same. It's a I've been talking to a lot of my constituents and residents, and I've got quite a few items that, you know, it's good to actually talk to them, but I won't bring them up here. I might talk to the individual departments about them, but just sort of nuts and bolts things really. But it's interesting how they never really come across. You wouldn't pick them up unless you're actually talking to people out there. So sort of enjoyed that. But yeah, just it's always been a pleasure to be a member of the council, and certainly like to thank Robin and Brian for your hard work and the effort you go to. I've always, you know, I came from Ōtorohanga. I've always had a bit of a spot for it, but I know that they are very well, have been very well represented with you out there. So they should all be proud of that. So yeah, but yes, yeah, if it's the last council meeting on that, well, good luck to the rest of you, and I will be, you know, wish you all the best too. So it's me.
Councillor Williams.
A lot of work going on in the last month. The town concept plan release of the 19 and subsequent ones. So then I mentioned earlier, joint committee meeting on 29th of August. Well, I had no item regarding that. One of the things working on is tsunami alert systems, and that's one of our major risks in our area. And there's a variation across the country as to whether there's a 3-tier response or a 1-tier. At the moment, Waikato's sticking with the 1 until NEMA gets it sorted. But you have a look at the Get Ready website again. I'll note that to anyone. Yeah, doesn't matter, like if you buy the sea and there's an earthquake and it's long and strong, when it's finished, it's moved. Yeah, risk and assurance working group, we're looking at the risk profile. GMC webinars, highly recommend the Future for Local Government one, which was on authentic relationships with Kapuri and Māori. There were two excellent speakers there on their experiences in that process and unpicking the RMA as well. And had a good trip with staff and Councillor Jeffries around the carpet in September. And yeah, supporting everyone else in their future endeavours and thank you all.
Councillor Foster. Not for us to do, is it?
No, it's not. But I think I alluded to you the other day when I was talking to you about. People often ask me, did I enjoy council? And I say, no, I hate it. and it's, to some extent that's actually true, because I've had a long involvement in other things, and you could actually achieve something and get on with it and make decisions, and that was great. And that is how I personally like to operate. And if you follow an idea or whatever, you go for it. But however, there's a process, and you've got that Wellington crowd to deal with it. It's makes it quite difficult. So, did I really hate it? Probably not. I was told this morning I was leaving, and I'll probably miss it. I don't know whether I will. A few things. I hope that the council will continue to look after the Waikato toilet. It is the second one that was built there, and it had been allowed to. The first one had been allowed to rack and room, and then the council said. Councillor said, "Oh, let's get rid of it." When I go past there, I smile when I see that. It's a bright piece of art, and it sort of stands out because of that, if nothing else. But I do know that the people who use it are not the Ōtorohanga people. They're the people who travel through there on a daily basis. And if you go and spend any time there, you'll see how many vehicles pull in to take advantage of it. So please look after the toilet. I'm really pleased about Council Mark, and I hope sincerely that you'll continue to pursue that. I think I've said to you, Tony, before, I think it's the best thing since last week. And you have to remember that it's based on your class. So what you're aiming for is to be fantastic. And you've got a good council next door, I think, and who will work with you. So please take advantage of it. I'm glad that you listened to me, Max, in relation to risk and audit, because that is definitely putting depth into your organisation. And I'm really pleased to see the involvement of mana whenua. It started off with the citizenship, and then and I knew that you cannot operate in this environment and you ignore half your population. But it is exciting. And I see you've had the beginnings of it today, and so please, I found it really stimulating having to work through the issues, and so I hope you do the same. When the first, I think it might have been the first or the second meeting, where I was asked about my aspirations for the Ōtorohanga. And I talked about the development of the rural area. I think Ōtorohanga district is a very beautiful district. There is things out there that people don't even know about. Town people don't know about, and town people don't know how rural people think, as long as you think that you know everything. I lived in Ōtorohanga for 45 years, and you become very independent in everything that you do. If something needs doing, the district does it. We don't come calling to council asking for money or whatever, not very often, or not big money. And you actually just got on with it. And so I admit I struggled with small town. I've never really lived in a small town. And so I was quite confronted by some of the things that I experienced in this council room. I would like to think that over time that will change. I don't know whether it will, but Ōtorohanga is an interesting district because you can use anywhere, and we will only use the town if it's a destination town. There's a reason to come for it, especially if we've got 2 or 3 other towns that are closer to us. So I hope that that'll be listened to. And the most exciting and most fun thing I had while I was here was the Steampunk Festival. I think that was fantastic. And it was wonderful to see these Aucklanders sitting in the thirsty weather, asking for soya milk in their coffee. And okay, there were gripes about it, but someone should have just held on to their visa card, and it would have been, everyone would have been happy. But I actually think that was great, and I would like to think that and the Te Wāli festivals carried on. It gave you some great lights. So thank you for putting up with me. I know I've annoyed you, Maxwell, many times, but that's all right. You're good to your mother, so that's the most important thing. And I won't miss this, but I look forward to actually having some time to do the things that I personally want to do. Thank you for the flowers. I so value flowers now because I haven't got any to pack. So that's great. And thank you for the towel. I'll wear it with pride. Thank you.
Very good.
Councillor Jeffries.
Well, that's a pretty hard act to follow, isn't it? Yeah, I'll try and keep mine brief. The 22nd of August, I had a meeting with Waipa Networks out at Carfield, Sean Horgan, who's the new CEO, and Anna Greenhill, who's the head of customer and community engagement. And Waipa Networks is very interested in assisting with Carfield community projects out there and looking at potential funding for things out there. They don't obviously operate in this town, but in our area, they're very conscious of the fact that they haven't done a lot in recent times at our way. So there is potentially some funding that we can tap into out there for whatever project comes up. I know that the sports club is perhaps one of those. 23rd of August, I came to that security meeting here with Sergeant Jimmy Walker, and the focus was obviously on the CCTV cameras. And I agree with the Councillor Christensen. There were some comments in the submissions there about some, I don't know whether you call them privacy concerns, but some people were a little bit concerned about being captured on camera. So I think that's something that needs to be carefully worked through. 26th of August, we had a very interesting Carfield Community Board meeting. Probably one of the more interesting community board meetings I've been to in some time. And I'll leave it at that. 6th of September, picking up from what Councillor Williams said, we had the tour de Carfield and Aotea, and with some members of the staff. And I just want to acknowledge Jeff Good and the Aotea residents who supplied 4-wheel drive vehicles, and they took us from the village right out to the heads, and we had a bit of a look around and looked at fossils and things, old things, and yeah. And thanks to, just want to record also my thanks to Kevin Adams for the tour of the water treatment station out there. That was a new experience for a number of the staff. and to Tom Moki for his hospitality and tour of the new Sands of Kafia Hotel, which hopefully will be open before Christmas, but we'll see how that goes. And particularly to Nadia, thank you for organising the day out there. It was a lot of fun. It's just we didn't have time to do everything, and I think probably if we're going to have another one, we'd like to sit down and perhaps start a little earlier and finish a little later, maybe. Okay. And the last thing there was on the 14th, I came in for the hui with the Carr family here in Ōtorohanga, and know about their concerns with zoning aspects, which we've dealt to today, which was very good. Can I just also acknowledge Brian and Robin, both of whom I've thoroughly enjoyed working with. You're both forthright people, and you bring forward honest opinions, and they're used, well, always well thought out, and it's been a pleasure to work with both of you. So thank you for your input there. And irrespective of the outcome of the elections, I just wanted to say that I've really enjoyed my association with you all, and to all the staff, I've really enjoyed working with you, and I hope that association will continue in the future. So good luck to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor. Right, at this point, I'll move on to public excluded section of the agenda. So I'd like to move on to public excluded, please. So the seconder, Secretary Councillor Dow, all in favour? Aye. absolute privilege. We obviously don't know what's happening in a month's time, however long that is. But really pleased with where this council has come over that time. With the staff that we've engaged with that are on board, that are in this room, has been really, really cool. I think back to when we did interviews for Tanya, I wanted this here to be the place where anybody working in local government would want to come and work, and I believe we're getting to that stage now. And I think the employment of Tanya for me is one of the highlights as well during that period. So we've got a really engaged chief executive in this journey. And I think for me as mayor, the progress we've made in the various avenues that we've talked about, for me is really, really satisfying. And I think on top of that, to have a council that's actually worked together collaboratively for 9 years is huge when I see the dysfunction of so many councils around New Zealand. So I can only thank you all around this table for your contribution to ensure that has been the case. There's going to be challenges going forward in the next training. There's 2 more seats around the table, and there could be a political aspect to that. But I think as long as we carry on our conversations, that takes away politics a lot from where it potentially could be. So, yeah, really pleased with my job, and if I am stepping aside, let's hope not, but if I am, then I'm very proud of the work and what I've achieved over the last 9 years. So I'll leave it at that. So on that, I'll declare today's meeting closed.
Very good. Thank you.